piece of music up that sounds like an old classical piece of music, and people online couldn't figure out what it was, and so there was a
Oh,
whole thing about it, like who wrote this piece of music.
I'm going to listen just a little bit, just
I
because
I think that's the pieces.
I'm curious now.
It's also on the website. It's called something on my website. I forget what it's called. That's not it. No, that's something.
This is something different.
Yeah, completely different. I don't know what that is.
There's no description. Uh, Reynald
No,
Grenier.
that's not us. That's not
Oh,
us.
really?
No.
Wow, that is so weird, huh?
Yeah, but I understand how it came about because of a piece called "I'll Be Your" or "I'll Be Your Ghost" or "I'll Be Your Ghost." It's on my website, and that's the piece that somebody started calling that piece Requiem. It's not. If
Oh,
you just play a little bit of that piece, what's it called?
your ghost.
Yeah, that one, and you'll get the idea.
Talk about space.
Yes.
Beautiful.
You get the idea as it goes on and on.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, but people, somebody online thought it was a stolen piece. They didn't, so it was a really funny controversy, small controversy. So like Patrick Warren
Yeah.
and Timo didn't write this, and so
Oh.
it started this whole conspiracy theory about where the song came from. I was like, no, it's just a simple song.
Yeah, Gabby Moreno has been playing with some jazz people, uh, and who are, big fans of hers.
She's brilliant. That's who I sat in with up in Bellingham this weekend, just for
Oh,
fun. Yeah.
oh, cool. She lives up there?
No, she was just doing a show up
Oh,
there, and I have some friends up there, so I decided to go up and visit my friends, and
oh,
also just sit in with her for the show, just on a
oh, how
whim.
funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Uh are you traveling? Do you do that? Do you travel as a pianist anymore? Do you do that too?
I haven't done since 2014, but
Yeah,
not that I wouldn't if somebody asked, but it
yeah,
just hasn't really.
yeah,
I mean, small things. I think I sat in with Aimee Mann for 3 weeks when her keyboard player was out,
yeah,
but just to sit in. I used to play with her in the old days a lot, but just sitting in because she knew me and it was easy. But
yeah, yeah. Um, so you're in the Valley.
yes,
You're a Valley boy now.
yes, I am.
Um, and so let's see. I had a question and I forget. I forget what my question is, Patrick.
It will
So
come right back when you least expect it.
yeah, I know it's really like that.
Mm.
Let's see. I can always go over to a Taylor question. See, so let's see. His last question was, what do you think about film scores that have a more atonal collection of sounds? Do you like the Schoenberg application of using sounds for scores, or do you find more tonal sounds to be more fitting?
It's all a matter of taste, but for me, I like things that lean more tonally. There's a lot of sort of uh, cliche cliches in film score music that I use, but then I struggle to avoid at the same time. I
Oh,
should say,
yeah,
like inharmonic medians where you're just going from C major to E flat minor to G minor, just things. Moving in that's done a lot in film scoring, and it's a common device. And then so I'll try to use it where I have to, but try to move away from it in places where I can. But there are places where a more serial 12-tone kind of thing can be really, really beautiful. I just it would be great to see more use of that, like good use of that. I think they used to use it more in oddly enough in some earlier film scores, but I don't hear it so much these days, but
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to any of it.
How would you say your point of view of life affects your your business? And you seem like, as we say, copacetic. You seem.
I think it probably affects the business part of my job poorly because I'm not a good businessman. I'm very tend to be shy, and not great at connecting and doing all that kind of thing that people are so good at doing. So I probably would do better if I was better at all that. I'm not great with social media or any of those kinds of things, so I
Doesn't
think.
seem to be hurting your business.
I don't know. I'm sure I could do better if I was better at all those kinds of things that people are good at. But I'm not great at that kind of thing. I get uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Besides music, I mean, obviously, I know you enjoy the outdoors because you just came
Yeah.
from that. Are there other things? You mentioned you were doing a medical. What were you doing
Oh,
before?
that was when I was young. So when I got out of college, I didn't know, like, I wanted to make a living at music as everybody does, but and I knew it'd be something to do with rock bands because I wasn't a classical player by any means or jazz.
Yeah,
But there's 40,000 rock bands in LA, and of the 40,000, 1% get signed, and of the 1% that get signed, 1% of those actually make so I knew what the odds were not great. So I had a job as a medical tech, just so I didn't want to be like a poor starving artist. So I trained as what I did was EEGs, brainwave tests. I was a mobile diagnostic service, and I went from hospital to hospital from here to Orange County, and made a great living at that. Like, so I wasn't one of those like I'm going to die in my apartment eating ketchup until I make it. Like no, I'm going to have a nice car and a job, and and I'm not less passionate about music, but I also don't want to,
that's funny. Actually, I have a friend he's a guitarist. He's from Argentina, and he's also a video guy. He's done some videos work for me, but he also developed something, and I'm so not knowledgeable about it, but he developed something along the EKG line that he's very much in demand for
Oh,
now.
wow, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
can't imagine what I mean, the technology has changed so much since the time I did it I
yeah,
did it back in the 80s, basically.
yeah,
And everything was uh, printed on paper. You do an EEG, which is about a 30-minute test, and there's 100 pages of your brain waves written all over paper. And now it's all obviously laptops and chips and
yeah,
computers.
yeah,
So I wouldn't even know how it works today.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. It's kind of like the musicians who are scientists too.
Yeah, yeah.
I know a few jazz people who are scientists. It's like, okay, wow,
I understand the connection. I do understand the connection.
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever just compose for yourself like anymore? I mean, well, I say anymore, but you said
Yeah.
you said that
I
you
tr
were, letting other people compose like when you were on the road with them.
I,
Because
tr-
they were good songwriters.
I try to find a moment during the day to just to exercise that muscle, to just even if like even if it's like you say, just a kernel of an idea, just to
Yeah.
find a quiet space and a quiet moment, and just see what comes to mind. Usually on a piano or something like that. But
Yeah, do you find the acoustic is more inviting to you than writing on electric?
yes, yeah, always. That's my instrument is piano. Really, I'm a piano player, and so I can when I'm playing it, I can hear it as it should be. If it's a woodwinds or whatever, I hear it, but I can find the melodies better. And I absolutely love the instrument. So it's just I got way too many of them. My wife would have got two grands and three or four uprights. I don't
Oh my
know.
God.
So,
Wow. Usually you just find guitar players like that.
no, I'm a problem child.
Two grands and how many uprights?
Uh, one, uh, three sort of miniature pianos, two grands and three what I call two tom thumbs, which are small uprights. I don't know if you can see them in the background. You can see a little one way back there that's painted or something,
Oh yeah.
way in the background. But
Is that what it's called, a Tom Thumb, or is that your name for it?
no, they were actually Milton. This company made these small pianos. If what is it, Casablanca
Yeah.
played against him. He's actually playing a miniature. If you don't notice, but if you look at the piano, it's very tiny,
Yeah.
and that's a tom thumb piano, and
Ah,
they needed it to make the set smaller. And the average watcher wouldn't ever notice it until it's pointed out that it's actually a very small piano he's playing. That's a tom thumb. And they were built, I think, originally for children, but they're three strings per note. So they were real pianos. And they had a wonderful sort of, not honky tonk, just sort of
yeah.
uprighty, intimate sound that I use for certain pieces of film score.
Right. I had what is it called? Acrosonic.
Oh yeah, Acrosonic. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a brighter piano, but they're lovely. Yeah.
They have a different kind of
Yeah.
honkish sound. Yeah, I had that for a while and I really actually enjoyed it a lot. And piano players liked it.
Oh yeah,
They,
they all have their own songs in them. Every piano has a song in it.
so a tom thumb, it wouldn't like a spinet would be a bigger than a tom thumb.
Yes. Well, yeah, it
Yeah.
would. It would. Yeah. I mean,
Huh.
we definitely have more keys. Tom Thumb doesn't have the full range of keys. It has, 60 keys or 70 keys or something. I forget,
Yeah,
50 keys or some number of keys, but
that's cool.
yeah.
Um, in your music, I don't know. I don't know. I think it would apply to what you do as well. I mean, for for a single artist like myself, for instance, I'm always, I talk about this a lot with students and with other people. How do you find you? Like what is you? What are your good points seems a little small way of saying it.
Yeah.
I mean, is there something, or are there things that you feel like I do this really well? This is a big part of what I can do, or what I'm known for, or what people are drawn to me for.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it applies differently for singers than it does for what I do.
Yeah.
I know what my strengths are. I definitely know what they're not. So I don't, but I mean, if I did have a strength, it would be something on the order of just making the most with the least amount of notes, trying to make some kind of an emotional impingement
Yeah.
on a situation, whatever it is, writing, composing, arranging with the fewest notes possible. It's something I enjoy. I think I'm pretty good at. But it's interesting when you mentioned singing because uh, I, re- I thing that singers often do is they're a little bit afraid 'cause I worked with a lot of singers over the years. They're sometimes afraid of who they are as a singer. I remember early on, was working with Aimee Mann for many years, and she was coming out of that band Till Tuesday, which was a pop band, and she was just making an effort to throw out any affectation in her voice and just to see what was left. And there's what is left is always something beautiful, whether you notice it or not as the singer. There's the you is always really, really beautiful. And in this day and age, we have so many affectations and gymnastics and great, but then you miss the core of who the person is. I think that's all my favorite singers. They just sing so beautifully and so simply, and almost like you think it's too simple, but then what's left is something really emotional and beautiful. So that's always just getting away the clutter, and trying to, even if I'm writing a solo or something, just get rid of all the extraneous notes and see what's at the bottom of the barrel. I think, and I find that my favorite singers that I've worked with did the same thing. They just got to the bottom of the barrel and found themselves.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, you know, I Tom Waits comes to mind, and Sting. I love Sting
Yeah,
singing.
yeah,
It's so raw, and
yeah.
yeah, it's
Tom
what could
is
be
Tom
better?
is a special character because he creates characters often in his songs and then
Yeah.
becomes the character. There's a was that I mean I was fortunate enough to get to tour with him uh, in 20 was it 09 I think or 2008 I can't remember. We did a really big tour. I think he had used a lot of his catalog. Anyway, long story short, a song like Jesus Gonna Be Here. He's singing it from the perspective of that character you see on the corner of Fifth and Main with a pig nose amp preaching the apocalypse with a pig nose amp and a guitar. That was his inspiration for the song. And so he sings the whole song purposely with a lisp, Jesus gonna be, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And you don't even think about it, but he doesn't have a lisp. For that song, he did,
Wow.
and even the lyrics, the way he wrote the lyrics, he's writing them so freaking brilliant as with the grammar and the dialogue that guy would use, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's gorgeous.
and he did that for a lot of his songs. So in that case, it's a little bit the opposite in that, but he creates a character and then he just inhabits that character for that song. And then he steps back and he goes into a different room and writes another song. So
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. And I mean, that's probably why he's a good actor too.
yeah, he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
He's
I love
really
watching
good.
him act.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It gets
Yeah.
gets
It's
better
really
and better every time I see him. So.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. Yeah. I last year I wrote a English lyrics for a Brazilian composer named Ginga, who's pretty famous from Brazil. And I happened to meet him at Brazil Camp, which was in Northern California. And he had just written this song and he was teaching the class, which was really just a hang every
Mhm.
day, the song. And we performed it. And it was so beautiful. It was really uh, music that I'm drawn to. It had a lot of intervals, and at the bridge it changed keys, and it was just, it's got this is that Brazilian thing, the guy singing with a guitar,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You
Brazilian
can't.
thing. Oh, it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. So I asked him if it was okay if I wrote English lyrics, and so he read them and he liked them. But what was interesting to me was I've written a good number of songs, but this I I wrote, I don't even know how to say it, but kind of in a Brazilian mind. Like I think the lyrics in Brazil, I don't speak Portuguese fluently or anything, but I do sing a little bit and I know the translations. One thing that always strikes me is they talk about the heights and depths of love in the same song. And, you know, and
Yeah,
that they're very almost sensuous and
yeah,
poetic, these ideas are like, they're very
yeah,
passionate, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so that's how I wrote. I hadn't written like that particularly, but and I wasn't sure if he would enjoy that writing or not, but that was just what came out. But he okayed them. And it's yeah, so that was a unique experience for me. I have written a bunch for other people, but usually in my in my own kind of
Yeah.
abstract way, you know.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it's fun.
I always love my a lot of my favorite music is somebody from one country writing their impression of another country, like all the is that like when Debussy or Ravel would write a Spanish song, I find it really beautiful, or all that sort of all that crazy jazz, that sort of Mondo Exotica, lounge bachelor music, or it's like somebody's taken what they think South Pacific music sounds like, but it's not quite. It becomes more interesting to me that way. I don't know what it is. Like it can never be the original thing, but it's what happens is kind of something cool or cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. Well, Brazil is kind of an interesting place because their music, I mean, besides their folk music, which included choro, they had people coming into Brazil from all over the world and contributing to like the bossa nova and
Oh, of
stuff.
course, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's very interesting, it's not exactly born out of Brazil. It's
No, I suppose nothing is really, but
collaboration.
then they find their own voice and their own.
Yeah.
Obviously, their chordal sense is so interesting. The way they
Oh,
move, just like I could never even understand why it's so beautiful, how they're doing that. So,
yeah, really, really beautiful. Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't really into that music until much later because I guess just because of how I grew up,
yeah.
I grew up in the real kind of big band and Ella Fitzgerald,
Oh, wow, yeah,
and then like I said before, it was the 70s and that had all other kinds of funk and Motown and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Um, and then got into more modern like Weather Report, ECM stuff.
Hmm.
And and then I kind of it's funny because I was hearing some Brazilian stuff. Of course, we learned Jobim music, but that was Girl from Ipanema, Stan
Yeah,
Getz,
yeah.
and so as I was going after college, I started hearing more Brazilian things, especially when I moved here. And I just was allowing myself to not necessarily get into it right away. It was like, it'll come when it's supposed
Yeah,
to come.
yeah,
And then I'd say in the last 15 years or 20 years maybe, then I started really hearing
yeah,
and started really getting into it.
yeah.
And it's really quite beautiful. Really beautiful music. Oh man.
Haunting.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about the compositions and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, let's see. Um, do you, uh, I feel like, there's a lot of questions as a composer for you, Um, and, but how about the experiences that you've had? Were there, I'm kind of interested in a few outstanding experiences, but also I'm kind of interested in if you could vaguely share it with us, like things that happened that were like kind of like, oh no, I'm not going to do that again, or that was really bad. You don't have to name names, but do you have
No.
any things that stand out for you that you've experienced that were like, oh no, that was not, that wasn't good.
I've definitely had a lot of those. Some of it were just like really strange, very long time ago. I don't even remember the names, fortunately, but like you'd get a job, and the producer would be just the creepiest human, and you ever like, oh dear, how do I get out of this room right now? It's just like, oh God. I've had my share of that, or um, I've had disasters on stage occur. You play long enough, shit's gonna. Some of them are funny. I mean, I remember playing with Aimee Mann somewhere, and she was just taking requests, and I thought I knew the song. It was an all piano song, and she looked at me and I go, "Yeah, I got this." And I started the song, and she sang the verse. She kept looking at me, started the next verse. She kept looking at me, and why is she not singing? In front of the audience, she says, "Guess we're not going to do that bridge, huh?" The bridge, there's a bridge. But I think the audience enjoyed that more than if we had actually played the bridge. They just were laughing there. So a lot of moments like that, like, oh dear.
So, and were there some like really significant, memorable moments that you probably will never forget the rest of your life?
Oh, I don't forget hardly any of it, but the more memorable moments, there's just too many of them. There's times when I'm playing, I get so emotional just from what the singer's singing so beautifully. But I got a chance to write. I write it like I've written a lot of orchestral stuff for pop music, like big orchestras for pop music, and some of it's nice, some of it's good, and it all varies. And it's kind of based on what the artist wants. But I wrote one for Gabby, and she had written this beautiful song called "Till Waking Light," and the premise of the song is it's sung from the perspective of a mother in one of those big migrant caravans that were coming north to America with thousands of people. From the mother to a child to calm the child, she's saying it's all gonna be okay. She's not telling the truth to the child, but she's saying, we're gonna spread our wings and we're gonna fly. Anyway, so I wrote an arrangement for it, and it it was just one of those arrangements that did everything I ever hoped an arrangement would do. And the National Symphony Orchestra played it in DC, and it's just one of those moments. Like those are the moments I reach for, and I'll always remember. Like when I feel I did it right, as right as could be, even though the trumpet player got lost for 6 bars and couldn't find his way back in. So I have to hear that over and over on YouTube, like, oh God, dude. But it's still the gist of the arrangement is still there. So those kind of moments where it really just pulls my heartstring, the lyric, and I got to be part of it. And I almost feel like I almost feel like some other force was, the notes are very simple. It's not a complicated arrangement, but it's the right arrangement for that lyric and for that moment and that orchestra and that arrangement, because she has a lot of arrangements of the song, but where I feel like I just hit a home run, and so we're always aiming, we never really reach what we want to reach as musicians. We're always trying to get someplace, and that was every once in a while you get there. So I don't know. Those are the moments I strive for. We all strive for.
I'm going to look that up, but it sounds like it's a moment that I need to listen, like, focused. But is it Till Waking Light? And would it be associated with your name or?
Just put Till Waking Light, NSO, National Symphony Orchestra. That's the version you want to listen to, the National Symphony Orchestra version. It was when Ben Folds was doing a thing called a series called Declassified with the National Symphony Orchestra in DC, and he would bring in artists from all over the world and country and different artists, and he would have arrangers arrange for the orchestra, and then he would mix that with actual traditional classical music, and he was just enlightening people on the orchestra. And until what happened with our current regime, he was going to keep doing that. He was a consultant for the Nationals. So he called me in for 3 songs with Gabby, and she was a featured artist. And it was just a really, she's out in front of the orchestra, and it's just a really, with a guitar and this big symphony behind her. And
Hmm.
And she tends to do a thing where she starts singing softly, and people don't know how big her voice is, and we keep it under wraps until the bridge, and then it hits, and then the orchestra finally comes in at full force, and it catches the audience by surprise, sort of takes your breath away. And just was one of those moments. It was just really fun to, you know.
Mm. Oh, wow. I can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah.
You know, that reminds me of Tim, um, let's see, Tim Weston.
Mhm.
Um, so he was Paul Weston's son, and you know, who was Paul Weston was like old time arranger, and Tim, he's probably around my age or a little older, and I forget who his mother was. Let's see. Let me just look this up on my in my Dropbox. And so he was doing for a while, he was doing this um let's see, where is it? He was doing okay. Sorry, gotta look for
So that's okay.
Rogers and Hammerstein. Here we go.
Yeah.
Tribute. So yeah, his mother was Jo Stafford. Do you know that name?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he wrote this. I think he did a few, but this was a beautiful tribute album to Rodgers and Hammerstein, and he used different arrangers, and he also with different singers, and it was incredible. In fact, I don't have the arrangers here, but like Nan King did one of my favorite things, which was This Nearly Was Mine.
Mhm.
I'll play you just a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
because just to show you, I mean, of course, it's Mark Murphy, so he's talking in the beginning,
Yeah.
which is to drop dead for, you know. But, you know, it starts really beautiful. I should share this with you. I will.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
All the lines of hope, those directions of destiny, some would say. You see it? That hazy pink horizon, so far and yet so near. All those energies take us on this journey to what is almost within reach. Almost.
and it goes on, and it's
And yet we never seem to
really quite
be
beautiful.
living for.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's one of those beautiful arrangements where every note means something.
yeah,
I love that.
it was. He had Phoebe Snow on there. He had actually he had Shelby Flint, who is his partner. Are you familiar with her?
No.
Oh, I would think you would be because she was an LA girl, but she was also a big studio singer. I mean, she's older, but she was a big studio singer for years, but she had a very unique sound. It was
I might be familiar with
vulnerable.
her. I might have even played on something, but the name rings a bell now that you say it. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, maybe I don't. I'll have to
She
look."
had a high range, very vulnerable sound.
Yeah, yeah,
And she was also an artist, like a
yeah,
separate artist, especially in the 70s and 80s.
yeah.
And so she was singing on it, and it's really a beautiful project. And
Mm.
I can't remember, there's this really, oh yeah, a unique, I know you would know this arranger, but he has a very unique name. I'll have to look it up and see who the arrangers are on it. And but there was it was supposed to have. It's called Everybody's Got a Home But Me, which is not a very well-known Rodgers and Hammerstein
Yeah.
song. And it was a very unusual arrangement, and it was supposed to be a pop rock singer who couldn't really cut it. So they got Nancy King, who's a very outstanding jazz singer, very like somebody like me really knows who Nancy King is. She and Fred Hirsch had a project out that was pretty popular, but she's very unusual. Anyway, it's a really cool project. I'll have to find out who the arrangers are, though, because that would make it interesting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor Hatch is mentioning Claire Fisher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Claire Fisher.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in Austria and I met this guy and he said, "Oh, yeah, I recorded Claire Fisher here." And I said, "Oh, really?" And anyway, he had a pipe organ and he recorded Claire only on pipe organ.
Wow.
You can hear the record now, it's out.
Oh,
But
wow.
but it's Claire. You know, he's not doing something really like a different kind of music. He's doing his thing.
Oh,
But it's
wow.
pipe organ.
Yeah, yeah. That's
It's
cool.
really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. He was a pretty cool guy, right?
Yes, yes.
And do you ever teach people?
I'm a terrible teacher. I try, but I mean, mostly children, or I try to teach my son a little bit. Um, I don't want them to go that, I want them to always be passionate about music, so I just try to find a song they like and show them how to play it on a guitar or a piano or something like that. And,
Yeah.
just little, but I'm not a very good teacher. I don't think I've had so many great teachers, but I'm not a good teacher.
So, and you went and Cal Arts. Now, Cal Arts during the time that you went, um, what were you there for exactly? Were you there for composing or I'm just
I
curious.
should have been.
Yeah, Cal
Like
Arts is like an artsy, right? Artsy.
then it was very, very artsy. Back then, I was there from the 70s through the early 80s before Charlie Hayden was there. So there was no jazz department. It was all very, very leaning more towards Schoenberg and stuff like that,
Oh,
or experimental music. And all the artists, composers and dancers and filmmakers were really brilliant. The students were. Mel Powell was the composition chair. He's was a great jazz pianist as a prodigy as a child. And then he studied with Paul Hindemith
mm,
and was at Yale. And then he ended up at Cal Arts. And he didn't ever. Jazz became so easy they just didn't ever play it after
yeah,
that. And then I had a piano teacher, and I wish I had studied composition, but I ended up as a piano performance major. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't paying attention. I was young. I was like, oh, no, okay. So, uh, but
yeah,
when I took the few composition classes I did take there were just monumental in my memory and in my DNA. So I wish I had done a lot more of those.
yeah. Taylor he's a guitarist, by the way, and he just got in there. So for his master's.
Oh, oh, fantastic. Well, I
Yeah,
don't even know what it's like now. I was there 1,000 years ago. So,
yeah. And he said his composition teacher, Andrew May, went there and studied with Mel as well.
oh, Mel was just the best of the best. So that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Do you do you have any views on how music, like the future for music? I mean, that's kind of a broad, wide open question, but do you ever think about where music is going or I mean, you're really varied in your taste and listening probably, but do you ever think about that, like the
I
future?
do. I mean, I like it. I mean, I think of it from is where it's going in general, and then also where it's going for anybody that wants a career in it, which is different than what it was when we were young. There's
Yeah.
people don't buy records anymore, so that's out. But I feel like live performing will gets better and better and will always be a thing that has meaning to people. Yeah, in the last 5 years, I've been going to a lot more just regular classical concerts with Dudamel or whatever, and just listening to these pieces that I sort of knew, and then hearing them. It's nothing like hearing them live. It's just a completely different experience than a record, and that goes for almost all genres. So I think
Yeah.
there's always a future in performing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not good with the business. I know it's complicated now, and you have to. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I just have hope that it keeps going, basically, and doesn't get too weird. I mean, with AI and all this stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going. I try not to stress about it too much, I guess, you
Yeah.
know. But there's always going to be room for emotional music, something that has meaning and feeling. So
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I try and get out a lot to hear
yeah,
music.
yeah,
And most of it is jazz, of course, because
yeah,
that's what draws me. But I like good music. I like honest playing, honest singing, and
yeah,
usually if it's honest, then I'm interested.
yeah, yeah.
And but I do think about it. She said, big sigh. So here I'm bearing my heart. I I'm always a student of life,
Yeah,
and I'm always wondering what I'm doing. I mean, I know what I'm doing too, but I am wondering about what I'm doing and what I want to do, what is good to do. And I realize I like I said, I do get out and listen a lot to music, and there are things that I would like to do more, like listen to Dudamel or learn the piano better, or the things that I consider would be real substantial. But one of the things that has been with me for years, because I've been a working musician for years, is and also a singer, a jazz singer who, I wish my dad might have told me, you're going to have to get all the gigs. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I may have changed my point of view, maybe
yeah,
not.
yeah,
So after years and years of being that, I have thought about marketing a lot, and where like you said yourself, for yourself, you're not like you're not structured that way for your business. And I'm not a marketing person, but I keep thinking of ideas and how to stimulate people into curiosity and coming out, and sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. And so when I think about the future of music, I think about that aspect comes into it as well. Uh, what, as you say, it's important and wonderful to be out to live music.
yeah,
It's an experience that goes beyond just watching a video, usually, you know,
yeah,
or streaming. It's like there's a visceral feeling that's happening. And I don't know, I know you're not the business kind of social media person, but do you ever think about what would draw people out to see live music?
Oh, sure. I mean, I when I see something that I love, I just try to turn people onto it. Like, you got to see this.
Yeah,
You would enjoy this, and it might be different from one person to another. I
yeah,
mean, when you said honest music, it's sort of the same thing in I might say real, something real or something like that. It sort of means the same thing. But when something's, I mean, if I watch a video these days, it's usually a performance of a moment that was real, and so those, I think I hope that might be the future of music, is just something real. There's a reason why all these old, Beatles and Stones and 60s songs are
popular.
so if you want to place them in a movie, you're going to pay 300-400 grand, because you can't replicate that moment, even though the mics were shitty and there's no low end and everything's like crap. Like, it's so real that it's instant, and you can't replace it. And so, a big movie house is going to pay, cheerfully pay 500 grand to hear the original Beatle or Stones recording versus the somebody imitating that to the best of their ability. It's never going to be the same. So I think those moments still occur, and I think that's going to be the sort of the future. I hope. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Guessing, hoping. You
Guessing.
know, one thing that I must have watched it so much because every time I open YouTube it comes up. But um, and I remember watching it on TV. It was on David Sanborn's live show that he did years and years ago, 25, 30 years ago. It was Sunday nights.
Mm.
He and an English musician had this kind of unplugged show on.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the first shows was Milton Nascimento and James Taylor.
Oh, wow.
And they sang a few songs together, and my first husband and I wept
Yeah,
while we were watching it. It was
yeah,
incredible because they actually kind of have a similar quality, just
yeah.
this incredible, raw, organic truth that comes through this beautiful voice, and the
Mhm.
music's simple and
Yeah,
direct.
yeah, yeah. That's the moments we all live for. So,
Yeah, it was really incredible. I'm going to write
yeah.
that down and send it to you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Send Patrick the YouTube and also the tribute. Okay. I have two assignments here. Okay. And yeah, I thought it would be nice to hear a little bit more, of I guess again from the cues from you,
Well, those
right?
are just some things I threw up there. Because those are just things. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, should
That's,
I go listen to something else or
those cues are fine. I mean, some of them are just, they're sort of up there representing different parts of film scoring. I'd have to see what's on them to let you know which ones would be more interesting. Or
I can tell you I mean, I can show you here they
oh,
are.
please. Let's see. Like the third one is sort of an interesting one. Has more melody, more
Yeah.
whatnot. It was a piece of end credits. End credits I find interesting because you're trying to capture the moment, the last scene of a episode,
Yeah.
and you're trying to carry that forward into the credits. And I always find that a fun challenge to
And would you say do you have in mind that you want it to be a completed, completion, or is it a completion with a possibility of what's
yes, a
coming?
possibility. It's a statement and a possibility of what might come next or something
Yeah.
like that, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from the old man. gorgeous. Wow, that was really beautiful.
Thanks. Simple, but
Space and
yeah.
broad uh, voicings and low. Yeah, just really beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, that kind of thing only works for an end credit. You never hear that much melody in the middle of an episode. So end
Yeah.
credits is the fun little moment where I get to try something. Anyway.
That is gorgeous.
Thanks.
Yeah. Who played piano on that?
Me. I didn't.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Does improvisation come in for you anywhere in your writing?
No. Terrible. I mean, when I'm searching for ideas, it does, but I don't, you're not gonna, it's almost never gonna hear me take a solo at any point.
Yeah.
But I mean, but thumbing, it does when I'm doing an arrangement or something. I just try different things just to find my way into something.
Yeah. I was just, contemplating what you played, and but I guess I'm guessing you created it, which is improvisation a little bit, and then you wrote it down, and then expounded on the arrangement, and then you practiced what you had written down enough so that it actually sounds almost improvisational.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the tricky thing with that, something that's always important to me is to not, whenever I can, to get away from a click. So obviously
Yeah.
that's a rubato tempo, starting and especially at the end of each little statement of the same melody over and over. But anyway, it's hard technically that I have to figure out how to sort of hammer in a click in the computer so that the notes line up so that I can send a score out to the players. So when they get it, they have this
Oh,
what I call drunken click, basically.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I say, and they're used to me. At this point, they doesn't even phase them, but I just write drunken click on the scores.
That's really interesting. I find that really interesting. I always push back against the click in recording for my own projects.
Yeah.
It annoys me, but I know that the players and the arranger and they like to have the click, and I understand why, but it's just doesn't feel good to me. But that's really interesting. It reminds me of is it Claus Ogerman's writing for Joao, because
Yeah.
Joao sings way behind the beat.
Yes.
So the music's going and he's way behind the beat, and
Yeah.
Claus had to write,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, he heard it all in his head. He's
Yeah.
the real McCoy. So
But that's really interesting.
yeah. Yeah. So in this case, the click comes after the fact, and it's just really not, doesn't mean anything. It's just something to have the notes line up on a score. So
Yeah.
there's really no click except for that I have to hammer it in after the fact so that the computer will line up the score with the thing. It's all.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Drunken click, man.
Drunken click.
Let's see. Taylor does have an interesting question here. He doesn't know what you think about this, but being that you actually had this EKG history, he's on the autistic spectrum.
Uh-huh.
And he's wondering if you have any thoughts on how neurodiverse composers should have how do you say that word?
Inclusivity.
In the music industry, let alone for scoring. I don't know if there's a real opinion about that. That's kind of it's not exactly it's an interesting question.
I mean, I would think the music would be the easiest place in the world to have inclusivity because it's just about the music. It's not about anything else. It doesn't matter how it got there. It doesn't matter. It matters less about a condition of a person. Just all that matters is the music itself. So I would think that if ever there was a great field to be in, it would for Taylor would be this field, because it's just, there's every kind of personality in the world. Some of the most beautiful, heart-wrenching music I've ever heard is just come from some of the shittiest people I've ever met. And then some of the most, and vice versa, some of the most horrible music has been for the sweetest, nicest people. And then vice versa that, like sometimes you a piece of music and you meet the person and writes it and they're just lovely. And oh, great, this is all working out good. So, and also in terms of, whatever, neural kind of things going on with the person. I mean, oftentimes that person's going to hear music much more heightened than the average person, so it's going to come out really, really beautiful. So, I mean, if ever there was a place to be, that would be the place. The safest place and the most fun place to be,
There you go, Taylor. He thanks you for saying that.
Oh.
Yeah. We're coming towards the end. Again, thank you for spending 2 hours. I know it's kind of a stretch to ask people.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And is there anything, I'm sure we didn't cover everything about you, but is there anything that you would like to add in, or just, just comment on whatever?
Well, I can't think of anything. I mean, music is a beautiful thing, and I don't know what type of person is watching this this broadcast. But I mean, if it's a younger person getting started, I just wish them all the luck in the world, and just don't give up, and keep writing, doing your thing, and find your voice, obviously, and find your strengths, and fear not.
And what if it's an older person?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they already know. The thing I guess you could say is that when you get to be my age, you realize that we're all the same. We're all struggling. We all have this. Even the most famous person is just having the same struggles as you do when you're 18. It's the same struggles. Am I going to get another gig? Did I write a piece of good music? Does that suck? Does that not suck? We're all the same. We're all having the same struggles, but you start to realize that more as you get older. You just don't worry about it. Like, yeah,
exactly.
So I just say, don't fret all that stuff. Just keep doing what you're doing, and find a way to get your music out there, even if it's just playing in a club for 5 people. Do it. It'll start a weird flow in the universe that'll just start to snowball. I don't know what it is. It's a little bit cosmic and a little bit strange, but once you just start doing it, things will start to happen. And I don't know how to explain it. It's a little bit weirdly magical, but just create something, play it for your friends, play it in a club, keep at it, and don't stop doing that. And it's much better than like, here's my reel and passing it out. Nobody's going to listen to that, but just create music and play it live, and keep creating. That's all I can say about it.
Thank you for saying that. That was really, that's a really beautiful thing to say and to end with. And it's I mean, those are the kind of intangible things that we can forget. Sometimes we're reminded of, and they're real. I mean, that's what to me what makes life tolerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's so many things that are intolerable. But that is, why are we doing this? And the fact of putting it out into the universe, and it starts something. Actually, that's one of the main things over all of these interviews that people have responded with. It's they went out and did something, or they just showed up, and then it just got picked up. And
it did. It starts, I think, especially if it's something that means something to you. I remember it was a time in my life when I wasn't paying attention, and I was running out of money. I literally had a sparkless bottle full of pennies to pay my rent, and I thought, what am I going to do?
Gosh.
And I just decided I'm just going to do anything but something that means something to me. And I just did a show for 20 people with this artist who I happen to love the way she sang. And then the next thing you know, something happened and something happened and something happened. And I don't know, but it started the ball rolling again. Because, and I don't, it's just like a cosmic, is a cosmic force in the universe that will assist you on the
Yeah,
ride. So,
yeah. That kind of reminds me of a little story of Lee Newman. Let's see, his grandfather, I can't remember names right now, but his grandfather wrote "I'm in the Mood for Love."
oh yeah, well, there you go.
Famous
Yeah.
Great American Songbook composer. Anyway, it was during the Depression, and he was walking along Riverside Drive in New York, and he bumped into George Gershwin. And George said, "How are you?" And at the moment, he was horrible. He was
Oh,
out of
interesting.
work
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, there you go.
really. And so, and George said, you shouldn't have that much trouble. What can I do for you? And he said, well, you can get me a piano. So he gave him an upright piano, which Lee actually has in his office.
Oh, wow.
And his grandfather, whose name I can't think of right now, sat down and wrote "I'm in the Mood for Love."
You can't, you can't do better than that story.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
yeah, great story.
Yeah.
Anyway, Patrick, thank you so much. Have a
Thank you
wonderful
so
day.
much. You too.
Really appreciate your time.
All
And
right.
if you want, you can sign off, and then I'm just going to say a few more things,
Okay.
just extra
I'll
stuff.
sign off. So long. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. It
Bye-bye.
was a pleasure. So, wow, that was really fun, huh? What a nice human. Oh my God. And just a fun life, really good. Just wanted to let you know that Friday, I'm doing these on Mondays and Fridays now. Friday, I'm going to have Mark Isbell on, and he's based locally. He's a woodwind player, sax player, and he's been in love with Brazil for a long time. He's gone there for long periods of time, and he's a very high energy individual. He's fun to talk to. Also, for those of you in LA, I now have a steady gig, which you really should come down to. It's really nice if you can get your butts up. It's Saturday mornings, 9:30 to 1, in Santa Monica, at a very easy place to come to and park, to Jinkies, which is a breakfast place. They're open 7:30 to 3. We do it 9:30 to 1. But Jinkies was an old time and still is a breakfast place in Sherman Oaks. And they expanded, they opened a few different locations, and one was in Santa Monica. So it's with Dory Amarillo on guitar, and the ridiculously fun and great player Joey De Leon on percussion. And so we've been having a good time. So this is a steady gig. Come down, support the businesses down there. They really, really, really need help. If you want to contribute something and you don't know what to do, this is a good way. Come down, have breakfast. That's it. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of great music happening this week. A shout out to Urban Press Winery on Sundays. They have music from 2 to 5, jazz. And they're having a young guitarist his name is Jackson Petty, and he's kind of like a Jim Hall kind of player. He's really good. So he's going to be there this Sunday. So that's a shout out. And love you guys. Have a great week. Bye, Taylor. Thanks for all the questions. And if you're still here, Mark, bye to you too, and everybody else who's listening. Okay.